My life and political thoughts as a tarot reader who thinks YouTube wants to know what the hell I'm thinking. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aunty K's Tarot. Buttons has just now decided to join. Come on, Buttons, don't rub against the phone. I don't know how much of the video I made recording over the weekend is going to be a part of this video or any of it. Because what I talked about there, I've been thinking about since. It's on my mind. It's ruminating. I've written out thoughts. Perhaps I should only do this part of the video so far and wait till I can get my laptop back from my kid and read out some of what I wrote. Speaking of which, for a new laptop, so that we'll get back onto the cards and sorting that out. I can only find one of two jump drives. I remember thinking it smart not to put them in the exact same place, except I don't. I'm kind of freaked out that I don't remember where the second one is or which one's the backup. I'm stressed. And I'm a little afraid to like plug it in and find out. Stressed. Pretty stressed about that. Pretty stressed about that. I put my platy fish on Kijiji, and people wanted them, especially because they were free. Some people were unpleasantly pushy. One lady, I was like, they're all gone. Sorry, they've all been spoken for and are being picked up this evening. And she's like, well, you know, can you find 3 for me? Like, you know, maybe just out of each of the other orders, and so I can just have 1 or 2 or 3 because I don't have a big tank anyway. And I was like, oh, platy fish should be kept in bigger groups than that, even though they're not shoaling. Mine did better once they were in a proper group. And they're gone. And she was like, well, I meant like with my other platy that I already have. So that was interesting. And this tank seems really different with far less platy fish. There's way less. It feels so different. Yeah. So there we go. That happened. All right, what's going on in the world? So as I look at everything going on around us, from what's going on in Palestine, and another fake, broken before it started, ceasefire deal, the fascism that's so obvious in the States with military attacking people in the streets and in their apartment buildings. You know, the bills being passed in Canada, Polyev bringing woke into Parliament, and bills that sound like they were lifted out of Trump's wording. And as I look at all of that, and I'm especially looking at what's going on with Palestine. And So my dear friend says that you need to watch Bibi and Trump speaking in the Knesset, which makes sense because you should pay attention to your enemies. And I'm about to get to this, but all my thoughts here are playing on this increasing sense I have that, as some of you know, I believe we are in that change, that end of civilization, all empires fall thing. It goes with economic change, like a new economic system, a new world system, a new civilizational system. And we had capitalist colonialism, which we've been in, and prior to that was feudalism. What's coming next? Some form of oligarchy. Oligarchy typically decides what your next form is going to be and how it's going to run, unless the people do something about it. So we need to figure this out before they firm up their new world order on us. And so I was listening, and I'm going to speak to that. But one thing I keep coming back to is if this is falling in, this is over, then we're planning decolonization and revolution under the wrong terms. We've been planning it under the framework of we live in a capitalist colonial world. Even Marxism communism is something that you do within a capitalist colonial world as like a slight alternate, not a very good one because it's not actually pure communism. They lifted ideas from the societies they were colonizing, which brings me back to the world was very different prior to 1492 than it is today. We often think that we just live in like the same world with modern technology. We don't. Not only, we all know that the Americas is totally different, but the Eastern Hemisphere is also totally different. Like, people in France didn't consider themselves the French, and of the nation of France until they came here to colonize and were like, New France. They started thinking of themselves in these more nationalistic terms as they were colonizing. We talk about Columbus being Italian, but Italy wasn't a country. It was a bunch of city-states. Completely different world. And so I'm like, a lot of us are like, well, we want to build a completely different world. Congrats. But you're building it from something that is no longer capitalist colonialism. And I think that's the part we have to grasp. And as those things occur and begin, there is like mass destruction, which we're seeing. We're seeing mass genocide. 1492, global genocide, right? Like, it massively altered the world population. It created an apocalypse here. Like, when you go look and, wonderment at the nature of the Americas, like, this isn't what this place looked like. It's not. And go look at the redwoods or the rainforest in the Amazon or the rainforest in British Columbia. And that's what this continent looked like. What's occurred here is an apocalypse. Even the forests we're trying to save you from clearfoot cutting are forests that have grown up since the apocalypse of early colonization. This land was clear cut. The continents worth of clear cutting is disgusting. Mass environmental catastrophe. It was. And they often want to talk about how many of us died due to disease. Just like in Palestine, they want to be like, oh, Israel didn't kill all those people. Some of them died of disease and not eating enough food or, not removing themselves from the rubble. That all of that's still genocide. right? It is. It's all an impact of doing that to people in a land. And nature will recover, but throughout the last 2 years, those of us standing with Palestinians, you know, have listened to them and repeated when they say, like, we are all Palestinians. We are. They've just watched the U.S. for proof that what, you know, was tested over there is slowly coming to each of your countries who helped participate with weapons and stuff, because there's got to be some payback, right? You know, and I don't mean the karma payback. I mean the, like, those at the top want something back for all the weapons they sent. They want to be able to use that same technology against their own people and people they don't want in their borders. Relatively new borders. Everybody's borders are relatively new. Relatively new borders that change to fit the benefactors of capitalist colonialism, which was oligarchs, but also kings and emperors and things, and, you know, then presidents and prime ministers and governors and the rest of it. Governors before presidents and prime ministers. Anyway, those at the top, the rulers, right? They wanted to use on their people but who's really in power? It's about to change. Trump is declaring a new, more open game in town, and we'll see who can compete and who can't. And they'll want to use it on people that they do and don't want in their new borders, if they use borders, however they do. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the new system becomes. Also, no one thought Britain was going to come out as superpower, which they were after the initial phase of capitalist colonialism. That was a surprise. So there's no guarantee that Trump's handpicked billionaires will be actually the successful ones in this. And it could change. The history in the Americas tell us we actually have a chance to do something different, because archaeologists are like, what happened to all these civilizations? They didn't die off. It's like they just left. And our people are like, yeah, we all just left because, you know what? Like, this civilization thing we were doing, like you guys, it wasn't so hot. It sucked for the majority of people. So we left. And we did things on a more imbalanced scale. And we built these awesome food forests. Some people stayed in these civilizations. You came upon them. But a lot of us were like, no. And then you came back and you fucking built it all over again. Only worse. So let's get into money, money, money. Anyway, let us get to what Trump had to say, which was all about money. All about money. Telling the world bribes are how the world works was like the theme. So let's get to it. Okay, so what is going on? What happened when Trump was in Israel and in Egypt? I haven't gone through all the footage from Egypt with all the countries. But when he was in so-called Israel in the Knesset, what that was it starts off with people being announced like they're at an awards show or something. And so-and-so is here. And so-and-so is here. And it's like that through the whole thing. And then in Trump's speech, a lot of it was like, oh, this person who's such a good person, maybe they weren't perfect, but I saw a vision for them and I did this with them and they did exactly what I wanted. You know, oh, Steve Witkoff, he can get any deal ever. He doesn't really do politics. He actually just does money, real estate. But I put a real estate agent in charge and everybody's doing what I say. Oh, and look, there's this billionaire Zionist genocidal bitch. Her and her husband gave me lots of money. Okay, I forgot to add, and I don't know how I forgot this. Okay, so in like this rich lady who gives them all this money, and so she can just call them and show up at the White House. Her name's Miriam, and she gives Trump this money. But one of the things she wants is for the United States to recognize the Israeli expulsion of the West Bank, for them to take over the West Bank. And so Netanyahu, you know, thanks Trump for like recognizing Israel includes Judea and Samaria, which is the West Bank. And then like Trump applauds this woman for giving him money and bribing him, and she gets a medal. So it's also, bribery is heroic. And I listened to them and I did what they said. Like that's what it was. Oh, and they all do this weird clapping. I can't imitate it because everybody just claps in unison. I was like, that's so bizarre. How does everybody clap in unison? Well, apparently it's the so-called Israelis telling on themselves that they're actually settlers from Eastern Europe. Because when I Googled this in unison clapping, I came across all these studies from like Romania and other parts of Eastern Europe where it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. Not a Middle Eastern thing. It's a cultural thing for white people from Eastern Europe. I'm doing it wrong. And everybody together. It was bizarre. Anyway, that was side tangent. But the theme was money. I have money. And he also went on these tangents about there's these 4 countries. They probably don't want me to name them, but there's 4 countries who have a lot of money and they're going to spend it where I tell them to spend it. As he's saying this, he's clearly not got these 4 countries for sure in the bag yet, because he does waver a bit, and you know it's going to be decided in the big after party they're having in Egypt, where all the world leaders will make decisions for Palestine instead of the Palestinians. So, and when he was at the, I don't know what to call it other than an after party, and I say it to sound callous because that's how callous they are. This wasn't like, wow, we ended a genocide and now we're going to figure out what we're going to do with the people committing genocide. No, instead it was like, oh, the genociders all decide to quit and now we're going to throw a party that we're done. Except they aren't actually done yet. They're done enough to get other world leaders to make decisions about how everybody but the Palestinians will run Palestine. And that's an aspect of things, but it was about money. We've always said, you know, the world runs on money, but there's supposed to be these checks and balances. You know, there's supposed to be rules and laws and, you know, being a billionaire doesn't mean you can just give the president money and then call him up and go visit him at the White House whenever you want. Except now it does, according to Trump's speech. And then he'll do whatever you want. But because that's what's happening. They are creating a world for themselves without us. And they don't really care anymore what we think is morally right or wrong. They don't care anymore. Trump's speech, or really how anybody around Trump talks about the money they're making from Trump being president, especially Trump and his family, under the world we've been living in, that'd be a scandal. It would be all over the news, not just the American news, it'd be all over international news. But it's not, because they all own the news now. They own all the news, and it's all owned by a few billionaires, and it's all about money. And since we don't have billions, they don't care. So we do have to change the way we protest, the way we envision our revolutions, and how we envision change, right? Yes, your local level still has some power, and it will enable you to make connections for when your local level no longer has power, or you no longer have any influence over your local level. It does right now. Go make your change there, make your connections there, but stop believing that's what's going to save us, because it's over. And I don't even say this in like, we should all go home and cry. Like, this world wasn't working for us. The next one clearly isn't either, but it's not set yet. It's not firmed up yet. They don't have it all figured out yet. We can still stop it. I guarantee we need to get rid of AI to do it. Peter Thiel saying anybody against AI is the Antichrist. He's largely saying that because there's lots of reasons why Christians might think AI is the Antichrist, but the rhetoric should concern you. And it's how, that's who the billionaires are. That's who's making the decisions. That's who's getting their hands shaken. It's AI and real estate. Not all real estate, just people who can help Trump have a golf course in every country. Trump's ensuring he has real estate everywhere. And with all the bills Canada's passing, bills C2, C8, C9, there might be a C12, there might be a revival of another bill from last year. Becoming the 51st state could be just like policy. Like, enough bills are passed that hand enough power to the enough police and surveillance power of Canadians over to the United States, then that's how you become the 51st state. That's what's going on. It's what's going on. All right, we got I'm blanking on the name of this deck. Tarot in Space. Maybe this is pick a pile. We're gonna have Tarot in Space. 3. Dream visions. Star Wars. Okay. Tarot in space, folks. Nine of Comets. Lieutenant of Comets in reverse. Eight of Planets. Planets are coins. Comets are wands. Don't hamper your movement. Make sure you're able to move and get out and move around as much as possible. Don't be trapped by borders, which of course they will. Don't be falling asleep from exhaustion on what's going on, bogged down by work, which is normal. Man, I feel called out, including by this part. All right, let's concentrate on ID, passports, wherever you're able to get, before you're forced to have it electronically and futuristically, especially. Don't be asleep on what's going on because you're worn out from work, and do make sure you have ways to move around your city, your province, your state, your country, and across borders. Okay, dream visions. This is why, although I made a deck where I changed the name of the court cards and the name of the suits, I would never do it again. I wouldn't. I knew it. It made total sense to me as a creator, and I'm sure anyone who decided to study it. But if you don't, it doesn't always translate to everybody else. In those titles, there should be good ways of indicating. There's symbols actually for each of the suits. People, if they want to change the names of the suits, could do that. Okay. Four of coins. Whew. Nine of swords. And the five of swords. I see it. The imagery on this deck is fascinating. We have a hand grasping swords, and we have what looks like heads or machines with holding them and coming out of them. If your mind is focused on revolution, and you have some money to put towards it, to put that revolution in the hands of other people, do it. Do it. If this was your pull, that's what you do. Your revolutionary thoughts, what can I do? Find ways and resources to funnel resources into getting revolution into the hands of people who can and will do something with it. Okay. choose your people to stand through these times with, to fight these battles with, to build families and groups and communities and networks, but the smaller intimate parts especially. Shadow. I think a lot of us are feeling this and needing it, but like, learn to rebuild those all-important family connections. Create family, however you're going to create it. Remember, family got redefined under capitalist colonialism. We can redefine it again. And to stand strong through these times with. That might be more important than where you're at. All right, see you later, folks.